transgender. And what I'm trying to do to begin with is to kind of teach you a little bit about the differences in the nomenclature and what it feels like to be transgender. When you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, you see a person, you see that man or that woman in front of you, and you're probably pretty happy with what you are. You may wish you had Kirk Douglas's dimple, or maybe a smaller nose, or something like that. When a transgender individual looks in the mirror, they see a person they don't want to be, they never wanted to be. It happens at a very early age. When I was maybe 5 years old, when I began to realize what gender was, I knew that I was in the wrong body. You just know. You say, gee, why am I not that little girl, or why am I not that little boy? It's a very disconcerting thing. You just feel totally alien in your own body. There's actually some research that has gone on. I think I'm going to quote the Stockholm. I think Dr. Beyer probably knows about that. The Stockholm studies. There was a group in Sweden that over a long period of time collected brains of deceased transsexuals who had never had hormone therapy and began to dissect them. They froze them, sliced them with a tone into tiny little slices, and examined them microscopically. And they came up with the fact that the area of the brain called the hypothalamus, a tiny little area, is where your sexual identity lives, is different. In my case, it was female. In the case of a female to male, which is the opposite. It was a man's hypothalamus. And they looked back and said, well, how can we find the cause of this? What makes this happen? They said, well, people identify at a very early age. They say, heck, 5 years old, I remember thinking about it. They said, so it must happen early. And they went further back, and it's because it's a physical characteristic of your brain. It must happen somewhere during early development. And they found out that during, it's the first or second trimester, I'm not sure, I don't want to quote the wrong thing, but early in the development of your brain, when you're going to be an XY baby, a boy baby, your mother's thyroid produces a hormone that kicks off a little bit of testosterone, and it gets into her bloodstream, and it bathes those cells that are going to become your brain, and says, oh, I'm a boy baby, and it wakes up and it becomes this male pattern brain. In the case of me, a male to female, what happened was that my mother couldn't produce that testosterone. Some substance in the environment maybe blocked it. My receptors can't receive it. Who knows? They really don't know what. But the brain said, oh, that testosterone, I'm going to be a girl baby. And my brain develops in one gender and my body in another. So you get this feeling all the time that God, I got to do something about this. And I'm going to differentiate between you always see the acronym together, GLBT, the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and trans. I prefer GLBT myself. But gender identity and expression is the feeling that you are the wrong gender. Your sexual preference is what the gay and lesbian and bisexual part is. That's the kind of person you want to partner with, what you're attracted to. You also have people that cross-dress, and they get some sort of I hate to use the word transvestite, but you get the cross-dressing community, and they get a little bit of excitement out of feeling something frilly on. You notice I'm wearing slacks and a shirt here. It's not what it's about with me. So, when I was young, I was very effeminate. As I grew older and got into middle school and high school, I was a punching bag. I was picked on. I was constantly beat up in the schoolyard. I was harassed. It was beyond belief the agonies I went through. I came from a family that was very religious, very straight-laced. I'm the first generation born in America. They were extremely Catholic, and I was going to burn in hell. I had no one I could turn to. There was no one I could talk to. There weren't organizations and bodies that were willing to step up and even knew what we were. I didn't even know what I was. I figured this must be what it's like to be gay, because transgender was very, very rare, and hush-hush, you didn't even hear about it. So I even ran away from home. I wound up in New York City on the streets at the age of 13 years old. I fell into some bad times. It was the late 1960s, early 70s. I lived on the street. I actually ran into several other transgender people, and they took me under their wing. They were a couple years older than me and helped me. and took me in, got me some phony ID. I worked as a cocktail waitress, actually, in a nightclub until I was about 18 years old. And then all of a sudden, my voice started getting lower, hair started sprouting, my shoulders were getting broad. I was becoming a man, and it was destroying me. I didn't know what to do. So I decided to suck it up and try to suppress what I was and live my life as a man. Which I did a pretty good job of. Put myself through school, got my degree, went out, worked in the community until I was about 40 years old. I was married. I had a soulmate, a person that I dearly loved and who dearly loved me. I was honest with that person. Many of us aren't. Society tends to... Excuse me, my mouth's a little dry. Some water. Society tends to force you into that gender role that you're assigned from birth. I mean, when you're born, somebody wraps you in a blue blanket if you're a boy, or a pink blanket if you're a girl. Big boys don't cry. Girls don't climb trees. Excuse me. And you're corrected. And you're made to feel guilty if you don't conform to those gender expectations. So, as time goes on, you kind of get forced into that, and you suppress more and more and more, and it becomes a dilemma. Every time you try to express what you are, truly are to someone, you're afraid you're going to get corrected, and a lot of people stay in this closet forever. In my case, I was always open with everyone that was around me, and I just took my lumps. A lot of people will keep that identity in a box on a shelf, and they'll cross-dress maybe to make themselves feel a little better, have those few moments of expressing what they truly are inside. Years went on, I couldn't take it anymore. Here I am, 40 years old. I said, I have to do something about this. I'm going to transition. So I went and I sought out the proper counseling. I went through hormone therapy. I had to live in the role, for over a year before I was allowed to have my surgeries. During that time is the worst time for someone like us. You have that period of incongruity where you have genitals of a male and you're trying to live your female, or